Stranger Things is one of the most impactful television series of the last decade. With Season 5 set to release this month, it's the perfect moment to revisit where it all began, Season 1. Since its debut in 2016, Stranger Things has grown into a cultural phenomenon, blending horror, science fiction, nostalgia, and heartfelt storytelling in a way that resonated across generations. This is a show that changed how we think about streaming television programs and 1980s throwback storytelling. Today we'll explore how Season 1 was produced, its release and impact, the cast and characters, the story, the music, and everything else that made it so damn good. The series was created by the Duffer Brothers, who drew heavily on their love of 1980s Spielberg, Coppola, King-style adventure movies, classic horror and sci-fi films, everything from E.T. to The Goonies to Poltergeist, with John Carpenter-style atmospheres. They pitched a story about kids, monsters, mystery, and friendship set in a small town in 1983, and eventually they found backing from Netflix. Season 1 was shot primarily around Atlanta, Georgia. Downtown Hawkins, Indiana was filmed largely in Jackson, Georgia, and many of the interiors and soundstage builds were at EUE Screen Gem Studios in Atlanta. Production designer Chris Trujillo and the art props teams sourced estate sale artifacts and classic 80s pieces like furniture, signage, cars to evoke a convincing 1983 Midwest small-town feel, despite obviously being shot in Georgia, as we know. Season 1 premiered globally on Netflix on July 15th, 2016. It became a phenomenon almost overnight. Now, we've been seeing 80s throwback stuff for quite a while. It always goes in waves as people who grew up in those generations become adults and start being the ones producing this stuff. That's why in the 80s there's so much stuff set in the 50s. The cast and characters for the show is absolutely legendary. Joyce Byers is played by Winona Ryder, and the writers have said that she is sort of a big reference to Hooper from Jaws, as famously played by Richard Dreyfuss. And I can totally see that. It's mainly in the hysteria and the fact that, this person's right, but people have no reason to believe them, and they don't believe them. You have Jim Hopper, played by David Harbour, who honestly gives me, Bruce Willis vibes in the first season, in the best way possible. This kind of character is obviously an amalgamation of all sorts of different types of characters from these types of movies. But this series, in Season 1 specifically, built David Harbour the career he has today. You've got Mike Wheeler, played by Finn Wolfhard, who's obviously become, a huge celebrity in his own right these days. And I see him as mostly a take on Mike from The Goonies, not only in name, but the way he acts, the way he leads his little merry band of Goonies. You've got Eleven, played by Millie Bobby Brown, obviously a very, very close to fire starter here, and is the driving force for the entire series. You've got Dustin, Lucas, and Will, the rest of the Goonies, your Monster Squad, your Stand By Me kids, who honestly are all great. You get to see how smart Dustin is in the first season. Will's kind of missing a lot of the time, but he's still there. Lucas, honestly, is just really whiny in the first season. Me and my girlfriend were rewatching this recently, obviously, for this video, and he's annoying in that first season. Great portrayal, obviously, because he's so annoying, but damn. Eventually he comes around, though. Then you got Nancy Wheeler, played by Natalia Dyer. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks this is an obvious reference to Nightmare on Elm Street, right? And it certainly won't be the last time Stranger Things takes from Nightmare on Elm Street. But this is another great character that just continues to grow throughout the series. Then we've got Jonathan Byers, played by Charlie Heaton. This is a rarer type of character, more interesting, someone who you probably see in indie movies and stuff like that, But it's very welcomed, and other than the creepy stuff he does with the photos, he's pretty great in Season 1. And lastly, for me, in terms of most important characters, it's going to be Steve Harrington, played by Joe Keery. Maybe the best arc in terms of overall all 4 seasons so far, you know what I mean? I absolutely hated this guy the first time I watched Season 1, but by the end of the season, I was already coming around. By the end of Season 2, I was a genuine fan. So by the time Season 3 rolled around, I was stoked for everything that happened with Steve, and I'm just here for Steve at this point. But man, looking back at Season 1, I was like, yeah, leave Steve and go with Jonathan. And it's part of me now is I don't know. Each character brings a piece of the puzzle: the kid's friendship, the frightened missing boy, the determined mother, and all of the dynamics combined of teenage and adult life in Hawkins. Now, there's only 8 episodes in Season 1, but honestly, you don't need much more than that. Overall, the story and plot carries very well. Season 1 is crafted borderline perfectly. I have very few notes when it comes to the story and plot elements that go on in Season 1. It's pretty solid. Now, if you go look back at Season 1, knowing what you know after watching, say, Season 4, and you reframe things in your head a little bit, it kind of changes the experience, I think. Because when you're watching Season 1, they obviously didn't have plans for what they are doing now. They had probably some ideas, but Vecna was certainly not the one pulling the strings. The music in Season 1 deserves special attention. The original score, composed by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein of the band Survive, is nothing short of incredible, right? It's iconic. Season 1, we all heard that theme song, man. It entered the pop culture zeitgeist like a ton of bricks. The synth-heavy, atmospheric score sets the tone, eerie, nostalgic, evocative of 1980s horror and sci-fi, but also stuff like Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, and not just the score, but the actual tracks and needle drops. Some of my favorites are like Jefferson Airplane. There's at least 2 Jefferson Airplane songs in there. Obviously, The Clash, Modern English. You have the Peter Gabriel cover of David Bowie. You have Joy Division, New Order, Tangerine Dream, Echo and the Bunnymen. These are some of my favorite bands regardless. So when I heard them pop up in the show naturally, Joy Division's Atmosphere plays, and I was like, hey, am I playing music for the computer? What's happening? That instrumental New Order song that's during Will's funeral. Corey Hart, Dolly Parton. It's masterful the way they crafted this, honestly, because you do have the popular 80s tracks of the time, like Sunglasses at Night, I Melt With You, Modern English. But you also have those stuff like Joy Division, The Clash. And although Stranger Things is modest in budget compared to major blockbuster films, Season 1's special effects were all very well executed. The Demogorgon, the portrayal of the alternate dimension, the Upside Down, the creature design all rely on a mix of practical effects, ambient lighting, digital work. The effects for Season 1 still hold up well. The story is grounded, The effects for this are obviously very stylized. There's things that are happening in this that, are obviously calling back to things of a certain time period and era and feeling. But there's also just brand new stuff happening. If I was to rate this one with my heart rating scale, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 hearts. Season 1 is up there for me. I was one of those people who saw the trailer for this on Netflix before it came out. And I was like, Winona Ryder in an 80s themed spooky show? I'm in. That was all I remembered from viewing the trailer when I did. And when I watched the show, my God. I will also be doing videos for Seasons 2, 3, 4, and eventually, yes, 5 when it comes out. So if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.